Hi, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to my presentation today. The presentation is called Anything, Anytime, Anywhere, Connecting Virtually with a Personal Touch. My name is Gillis, and I'll be your presenter today, and I'm coming to you from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Before we get started, I thought I'd just give a brief background about PolyU. We are the largest university in Hong Kong in terms of student intake. We've got about 30,000 students a year, and we are one of 9 large universities here. Hong Kong itself has Cantonese, of course, as the main medium of instruction in both primary and secondary schools. Putonghua, or Mandarin, is a core subject, and English is learnt as a subject in primary and secondary schools, apart from English medium institutions. So here at PolyU, I'm a teacher in the English Language Center, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a Year 1 subject called English for University Studies. This is an academic course that is taken by most freshman students, and I think about 3,000 students take this course a year, and I've been told it's the largest course in Hong Kong. It runs over 13 weeks for a total of 39 hours, and we have one class 3 hours a week. As mentioned, EUS is an academic course, and students take it generally in Year 1 so that it can prepare them for the rest of their academic careers throughout university. Within the course, we focus on writing problem solution essays, for and against essays, and delivering an academic presentation at the end of the course. Because it's an academic course, we focus heavily on academic style and tone, and in-text and end-of-text referencing, such as APA, Harvard, and IEEE, which are predominantly used here within the university. We teach the students about paraphrasing and summarizing, and finally presenting formally. I should just mention that when the students go to school here, although they can speak English and they often study English in great depth, they don't really learn about academic writing and presenting. So therefore, it's a requirement in Year 1 so that these students can be better prepared for their university careers or lives. And I should point out that all the universities here in Hong Kong are English medium institutions. So that means all the subjects are conducted in the English language, which is quite a big leap going from secondary school to university, where they might have only had English class a couple of times a week, to now having every single subject lectured or taught to them in English. So prior to recent times, all classes here at PolyU were conducted face-to-face until we had some circumstances that happened, particularly here at the PolyU campus at the end of 2019. So Hong Kong went through quite a political storm, and our campus was actually under siege for a few weeks, and that led to the suspension of face-to-face lessons. The university decided to push back the start date of the second semester, which would have been January of 2020. They pushed it back by a couple of weeks just to clean up the campus and get everything ready, and that's when COVID hit. So we unfortunately had to jump straight to online teaching and learning. So when we did go from being face-to-face to completely online, which was a year ago now, most of our teachers at the time were already used to blended learning and incorporating various tech tools and learning tools and platforms into our lesson plans to enhance the learning and student engagement. However, conducting the teaching part online was quite daunting and left many of us feeling very overwhelmed. And this is mainly because we have never conducted an entire semester online. And we never really had any formal training as to how to use the platform, such as Zoom or Blackboard, as we use here at PolyU. Due to the suspension of face-to-face teaching, we had to conduct the classes online, and we used both synchronous and asynchronous approaches to our teaching and learning. So the class I'm talking about is a 3-hour lesson, and most of us conducted 1.5 to 2 hours a week online, and the other hour was conducted asynchronously. Safe to say that synchronous learning requires a new and extended skill set. This may even be an understatement to some of us. Many of us were already using a lot of these tools and platforms to help our lessons, but now we were almost dependent upon these as a way of conducting our synchronous lessons. Like using everything from Mentimeter to Kahoot to Padlet and so on. These were almost our lifeline to help us connect with the students. At the end of semester 1 of the 2020-2021 academic year, which was actually just at Christmas time, was when it wrapped up, my colleague Jeff and I conducted some research for our students, and we wanted to find out what the students' perceptions were of online learning in general, what they felt was positive or negative about it, and we were particularly interested in knowing how connected they felt to the class and as a class. Now, it's important to note that these were freshman students, their very first semester attending university. One of the questions we asked was online learning a positive experience? And we were pleasantly surprised to hear that about 97% of the students questioned reported that online learning was a positive experience for them. And the reason why I say pleasantly surprised is because those of you that do teach online know that it's very difficult, and actually you don't know if the students are actually engaged, if they're listening, if they're even sitting there. So to have 97% report back that it was a positive experience was something really nice. The next question we asked was what the students felt was the most important factor that influenced their positive online learning experience. And about 50% sadly reported convenience as being the most important factor. And what they meant was that they appreciated the fact that they didn't have to commute to campus and they got to stay at home. Approximately 22% thought that the online learning was or provided more flexibility, meaning that the lessons are recorded. So of course they could go back and watch the lessons over again, press stop, start, rewind, and so on, and do things at their own pace, if you will. Sadly, teaching methods only came in at about 15%, and the interaction with classmates came in at about 8%. The next question asked, what did they enjoy most about online learning in general? And 52% reported that they preferred or they liked the fact that they get to stay at home. The next thing was group discussions. About 17% reported that they enjoyed that, followed by student response systems such as Kahoot and other clickers. And coming in last was the fact that they liked that they got to repeat the recordings over again. When asked an open answer question, what did you enjoy the least about online learning? We got a range of responses from things such as the connection problems with their internet, depending on where they lived in Hong Kong, ranging from that to I can't meet my friends, to it's easier to fall asleep because I'm at home. And I like this one up in the corner there. There's not much interaction among the students unless the teacher really encourages us and pushes us. Another one was online learning is boring. It's not the same as same experience as being in person. And a very common theme here at PolyU is I don't like to turn on my camera and show my home. I think I am correct when I say that probably all students or most students, they don't turn on their cameras here. So it presents its own challenge when online teaching, because of course you don't even know if somebody is sitting there listening to you or not. When asked what features of online learning contributed to a positive experience, the majority of the students said that SRS, so the student response systems, again, such as Kahoot or Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere and so on, that they were the things that they enjoyed the most. And it's most likely because it's kind of a game, like if you used Kahoot before, it's set up like a quiz show. Other student response systems such as Padlet allows them to work in groups and be interactive and collaborative, and share their notes and thoughts on a Padlet so that everyone can see it. So it's not surprising that those were the things that they appreciated the most. Followed by the chat room. So what they mean by that is the chat function where they can type their comments as you go along, or they can type to each other if they're in a group, and so on. They really enjoyed the breakout rooms. That's a function we have on our LMS system. As I mentioned, we use Blackboard. I think Zoom has it as well, but the teacher can set them up into groups. So they break out into their groups, and they can work on the tasks and projects together, and only the people that are in that group can hear them and see them. I will say that they don't often use English when they're in that group, so that is the downside, because it requires constant monitoring by the teachers. We have to go into the group secretly and sort of eavesdrop to keep them on task and make sure they're using English. Another one that the other option there was other, and those were other features such as discussion forums, blogs, and so on that teachers used within some of their classes to try to make the class more engaging. So here's where things got really interesting. When asked if they were able to feel connected with their classmates and teachers during the online sessions, 53% said yes, while 47% said no. Now keep in mind that the first question on the questionnaire was, did you have a positive online learning experience, where 97% reported yes. But clearly here, approximately half of the students said that they felt disconnected. They didn't feel connected to their class, I guess the same way as they would if they had been in a face-to-face setting. So when asked what could be done to enhance your feelings of connectedness, students had a mixture of answers. Like there were definitely a lot of responses that said something like, I like what the teacher did. They did a lot to encourage participation. The students can comment more in the chat. So I think what the students meant there is that when the teacher posed a question, or when I posed a question, it was really like pulling teeth to get students to respond. Very few of them would willingly type in an answer. I would have to call on students to answer the questions, and only then would they type the answer in the chat or turn on the microphone if they were instructed to. Some other responses were turning on the camera, although many of us are too shy. So that was interesting that quite a few students made a comment about the cameras. Teachers always encourage the students to turn on their cameras, but we don't get anyone that does. I think on the first week, we might get one or two in each class that willingly turn on the camera, but once they see that their classmates are not doing it, then they quickly turn it off, which makes it, again, really difficult to teach when you don't know if the student's actually there listening to you. Some other responses were the classmates can comment more in the discussion forums. And that's something that I had noticed as a teacher, that I would set up various discussion forum tasks throughout the term, and I would get very few responses unless I set it up as a synchronous activity, meaning I was conducting it during my online lesson time. If I set it up as a task and told them to do it asynchronously, I didn't get as many responses as I had hoped to. Some other responses were more group discussions in the breakout rooms. Students need to talk more. So it was interesting that some students noticed that when the teachers were putting their students into these breakout rooms so that they could have a discussion and work on their projects or various tasks, that so many these students actually didn't talk in that time. They tend to communicate via WhatsApp or in the chat function rather than turning on the microphone and talking. So it was interesting that some students realized that they probably could have benefited more or felt more connected if more people participated this way. And the interesting comment up at the top right was resume face-to-face teaching ASAP. So there were definitely students that didn't enjoy face-to-face teaching, particularly for our subjects here in the ELC, because we're not lectures. We're actually considered to be a seminar, which means we are interactive. And I've heard so many students comment that they did wish that our classes would run face-to-face because they knew that they just weren't getting the same experience as they would if they were sitting in the classroom among their peers. But they did say that they enjoyed to have their lectures online, especially those 3-hour lectures where they were recorded and they can go back and listen to it, or they can listen to it on their own time. Some other students said nothing. I was very happy with everything. So there was quite an array of answers. There were some students that realized that students could have done more, whereas other students felt that they were content with how everything was and perhaps their own performance. The burning question here is, what does this all mean? Remember that 97% of the students polled reported that they had a positive online learning experience. They felt that online learning was convenient. It provided flexibility. They enjoyed the fact that they could stay at home. They didn't have to take an hour to an hour and a half commute. They especially liked that if they were scheduled for an 8:30 a.m. lesson, that they didn't have to get up early, commute, and get to campus, that they could just wake up at 8:30 and log into their class. But I would say that it was quite evident, based on the feedback, that the reason why students had such a positive experience is because of the considerable effort made by the teachers to create this interactive and engaging online lesson. Again, this was done by implementing various tools into the lesson plan, such as the student response systems or whiteboard functions that's used on Blackboard, or group discussions and getting the students to participate in discussion forums and blogs or watching videos and so on. So all of those tools available to us helped make the lessons more enjoyable for the students. Therefore, they felt the experience was positive. The students reported that they had an overall positive experience, but there was a real split about the level of connectedness they felt to the class in general. I think upon reflection, a lot of the students indicated that they could have done more themselves. So I think when they looked at the survey at the end of the semester, they did feel that they had a positive learning experience, but perhaps they didn't feel so connected to the class is because that they themselves didn't do enough. Like so when they were placed into these groups, perhaps they could have participated a bit more. They could have turned on the camera. They could have participated more in the chat without the teacher having to call out their name several times and so on. I think there were a number of students that realized that they could have taken more of an active role and could have taken more ownership onto their learning, rather than just sitting in front of the computer and expecting the teacher to deliver everything without any participation. So I guess upon reflection myself, I can see how important it is for teachers to provide an array of activities that appeal to all sorts of students. Because again, we are in an online setting and we can't see their faces. We don't know if they're actually sitting there listening to us. We don't know if they're even really participating half of the time. So I think it's important to provide a wide variety of these online activities that can appeal to all of the students and all of the varying interests out there. In addition into creating a wide variety of appealing and engaging activities. I think that teachers can try to maintain the traditional classroom. So, for example, if you always have called out a register for attendance, then do that again at the beginning of the online lesson. Um, it's great to use a variety of digital platforms for a group work. So maybe you would use Google Docs in one week and let's say Padlet in another lesson. Um, Students have a wide variety of skills or a very mixed level of skills. So and they do seem to enjoy trying out these different platforms. Another thing I find very useful is to give simple and clear instructions when online. And lots of times I will share my screen to show the students where things are located on our class homepage. So if I have referred to some links or some study materials or activities, I find that just telling them online during the synchronous lesson isn't enough. So I will share my screen and show them where everything is, so that once the class has, let's say, hung up, they have already seen where all the files and materials are that they need for their asynchronous lesson. Students or teachers, sorry, can also send emails. I find that is really helpful. So maybe sending an email after the lesson to recap some of the things that you've covered, as well as remind them of things that they need to be working on for, like an upcoming assessment and so on. And finally, I find encouraging students to participate in online discussions and forums to be so useful. Even though I mentioned earlier that I don't always get a lot of response unless I sort of make them do it during the synchronous time of the lesson, I still think that two out of 18 students responding is better than none. And again, we have so many, like a wide variety of personalities and students in our classes. So it is really important to have a variety of tools to appeal to these different learners. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in and listening. It was a real pleasure, and I hope that you found or you got inspired by some of the tools and techniques that we are using here at PolyU. Maybe you're already using them, and I'm sure that you've got very similar experiences as me, that students often respond, but maybe they don't feel totally connected all of the time. So it's important to keep this in mind when putting your lesson plans together and continue to have a wide variety of activities for the students to engage in. And hopefully, as time goes by, that will make them feel more connected. And let's hope that we get back to face-to-face learning sooner than later. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.